Welcome to season 2 of In Our Skin, Friend. I am so glad to be back. There's something that feels right about sitting here and recording these, and I haven't done it in a while. Though behind the scenes, I've been recording a lot of interviews, I haven't sat down myself just to talk to you all. And I don't know what it felt like to you, but for me, spring turned into summer, and here we are in fall, and I don't even know how we got here. It might not be fall where you are, but I'm sure you can relate to the passing of time. Sometimes it just flies. And for me, that's often what summer feels like. It's like we learned in physics, the heat turning up the kinetic energy and things just move a little faster. So here I am, things are slowing down. I am in fall and moving into winter where, there's just something about winter that gives me permission to slow down and to go inside. So I'm really looking forward to this season of the podcast and taking advantage of that to dive in with you all. So here I am, surrounded by foliage. I've got my cup of tea and, to be honest, also like a shot of espresso and a cup of water because you never really know what you're going to feel like. And I am so happy to be recording this for you all. This is season 2, and we're going to have 2 episodes a week this time, which is exciting and a little nerve-wracking for me because this is a one-man show over here at In Our Skin. For the past couple of months, I've been interviewing people and pulling together some great info to share with you all, and added that second episode in so that you aren't just getting the tip of the iceberg when you walk away from these episodes. Instead, you're walking away with some really accessible practices and ways to truly apply this stuff to your life. While many people find their way here looking for some sort of betterment, this isn't the kind of betterment that tells you you aren't amazing as you are. But this is here to offer you ways to find more ease, more peace, and more happiness in your life. Because as you know, In Our Skin is all about helping you feel better in your life. For those who are new or newly returning, I'm Ashley McCann. I've been working as a therapist, a coach, and a yoga teacher for over 16 years. It's wild to me how time has passed in that realm too. I clock this by my oldest son's birthday, and he somehow just turned 16. I remember being pregnant, working at the Eating Disorder Center in Harvard Square, and actually figuring out that I was pregnant because one day I wanted to gag at the thought of coffee, and it was like a needle scratched on a record, and everyone turned to look at me because I really love coffee. And since then, in some ways, not a lot has changed, and in other ways, so much has. The work that I love remains, and the way that I do it continues to grow and evolve, which is a part of why we are here. To keep learning, to dig deeper, to find greater understanding of ourselves, others, and to learn more from other experts. And I'm here to share with you all because teaching might secretly be my favorite thing to do. So with that in mind, welcome to season 2 of In Our Skin. Class is officially in session. Today's subject, Ayurveda. I have something akin to a crush on Ayurveda. You know what I mean? For me, it's got that intrigue that comes with knowing just enough to want to know more, and also this sense that if I had it all, if I knew everything about it, I might just become like the best version of myself. And I say this because though I have learned so much about Ayurveda over the years, there is still more to really integrate and understand, and it's really a life practice, though it can be broken down quite simply. So in our second episode this week, you will hear an interview with Doctor of Ayurveda, Gretchen Mills. And this week, I'm going to give you a little bit of a 101 on Ayurveda so that as you go into that episode and walk away this week, you might have something new in your back pocket that you can begin with. Ayurveda is a word that you may or may not often hear. And what is it really? So Ayurveda is a Sanskrit word. It means knowledge of life, and it is one of the world's oldest healing sciences. It's an Indian system of medicine that dates back over 5,000 years. So they've definitely tested and retested this one. And by the way, if you think of medicine like I often do, like to medicate and take a pill, we're talking about that broader term of medicine, which is the treatment and even more so with Ayurveda, the prevention of disease. So Ayurveda is holistic. It's whole person health. This isn't just focusing on the body, but the mind and the spirit. And while it's deeply rooted in tradition, it's also so practical and relevant today. In our upcoming interview with Gretch, you're going to learn a lot more. Today, I'm going to give you some of the basics, a few things to help you begin to build an understanding of the vast system of health and healing that is Ayurveda. So before we dive into the practices, let's build a little foundation to springboard off of. Imagine that you're sitting down for a cup of tea and chatting with a friend about feeling kind of off lately. Pretty familiar for many of us to have this kind of feeling. Is it a mood thing? Is it something physical? Is it mental? But what about the fourth category that might just encompass it all? Maybe it's elemental. This is the foundation of Ayurveda. Whether it's mental, physical, or emotional, Ayurveda has something for that, and it is built around the elements: earth, air, water, and fire. So let's take a little overview of the basics. In Ayurveda, the body is governed by three fundamental elemental energies called the doshas: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata is associated with air and space. It governs movement, creativity, communication. If you have an excess of Vata energy, you might be more prone to feeling cold, anxious, or dry. Pitta is linked to water and fire. It controls digestion, metabolism, and transformation. An imbalance here might show up as anger or indigestion or inflammation. This one's me. Pittas are often strong-willed and fiery. I don't think I'm strong-willed, but yes, I am fiery. And they can get easily overheated, literally or emotionally. Now, Kapha, the third, is connected to earth and water. So Kapha provides structure, stability, nourishment, and tends to be calm. When it's out of whack, you might feel sluggish or congested or emotionally stuck. Each of us has a unique combination of these three doshas. We are not just one of them. And that combination determines our constitution, our physical, emotional, and mental constitution. We're a little bit of each, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, in differing amounts. And I'm going to link a quiz to this in the show notes so that you can start to play with this a little bit to learn more about yourself after the episode. Ayurveda believes that health is a state of balance between these energies. But balance here isn't about equal and exact amounts. It's about maintaining the balance that is right for us, our constitution. So you heard me say that I'm a little more Pitta. I certainly have very Vata tendencies at times, and also really I'm drawn toward Kapha. I think I know I need more of that in my life and might have naturally a little bit less of it, but can definitely sink in and tap into that Kapha when I need it and when I can. So we all are going to maybe relate most to one or two of these, and we're all going to, again, have a balance of the three. But again, the balance is not going to be in equal parts perfectly. So when you look at your quiz results, you'll see you might have a little bit more of one. Now, when we're looking at what that right balance is for us, we're looking at what we were born with. Maybe not where we reside today. Stick with me. You'll understand this after I give you a few examples in a moment. But that right for us, born with it, constitution, is our inherent inner alignment. And that is our prakriti. The Vata, Pitta, Kapha balance that's right for us and the balance we were born with. When we're looking at where we are today, the balance of elements in this moment, as opposed to when we were born, we're looking at our Vikriti, the current state of balance. And you'll hear me often talk about it as an imbalance. You'll hear this in the episode with Gretchen because I am quite aware at this point in time when I'm swinging into a certain type of imbalance mentally, physically, and emotionally. And that's something that you can become more attuned to as well. And the beauty of it is that you will know things that you can do to start to bring that back into balance. It's like a little wake-up call. So for example, I have a prakriti of a natural constitution that leans toward Pitta with a little less Vata and even less Kapha. I can easily drift toward more vata in my lifestyle on any given day. So my vikriti, or my current state, will look and feel a little more vata-esque. That might look like going and taking on too much, which is not helped by my drinking extra coffee and maybe not enough water certain days, leaving me kind of dry. And in our society, really, this isn't that uncommon. More vata can look like light, easily interrupted sleep, anxiety, missed meals, and constipation. So any of those ringing a bell for you? Maybe too much vata. While pitta is the majority of my makeup, I can still go into imbalance here. So pitta is heat, right? So that heat can do good by firing up digestive processes or helping us get shit done, but it also can look like pushing too hard, whether in work, a workout, or simply having too much of that heat, which can look like hot-headedness, irritability, or digestive issues. And for me, I have had a history of eczema. So that is like the perfect combination, though perfect is an odd word to use here, of excess pitta and excess vata, the fiery, inflamed, dry skin. So as for kapha, that stable, nourishing energy in excess can look a little too slow. So it can leave us feeling tired, sluggish. We might be getting too much sleep. We might have a cloudy mind and difficulty getting going, getting motivated, and getting moving. So all of these have benefits. They can each help balance one another out. When we have too much pitta, some kapha coming in can be balancing for aspects of that. When we have too much vata, kapha can come in and balance that. And similarly, for an imbalance in kapha, vata and pitta balance. And each of them serves the other in finding, for us, what is our balance. So when the doshas are in harmony, we feel good. When they're not, we don't. We can even experience illness that can arise when we aren't really working toward that alignment with our constitution, that balance of the doshic elements. And when we do, we can bring ourselves back into alignment. So what does the understanding of doshas give us? It gives us a personalized approach to health. This is really interesting to think about in terms of the people that I often am working with, women and men who are coming to me, who are trying to figure out how to get to a different place in their life in the way that they feel mentally, physically, and emotionally, often, as you know, in relation to food and their body. Do you know how many people I see that believe they should be eating a certain number of calories, eating a certain way, shouldn't be eating certain foods, should be eating certain diets that are based on what worked for someone else? Have you ever experienced this? Someone you know, trust, maybe it's an Instagram person, that's okay, this happens, and you do what they do, and you do not get the results that they have gotten. It is so frustrating, and people work so hard just trying to figure it out. The desire is a good one, but when we are not aware of what works for our constitution, our composition, our bodies, our minds, what we do might be furthering the imbalance. You'll hear me talk about this later in the season, but one of the biggest issues I find is that women are trying to do things that work for male bodies that don't take into account our infradian rhythm, our cycle, and the ways in which our bodies actually are different every single week of the month. So for us to do the same workout every day, to eat the same way every week, actually doesn't really work for us most of the time. And a lot of the research that we're seeing on the things that are helping people, I'm putting this in quotes, it's often done on men and in some cases on women. But those women we've seen perhaps be post-menopause. So it's not necessarily an accurate gauge of what will work for all of us. So let me get off my soapbox. You'll get more on that this season. But one of the most beautiful aspects of Ayurveda is that it focuses on the individual and it helps us learn how to focus on ourselves. You know, it's like keep your eyes on your own paper. When we know what we're doing, we don't feel like we have to look to everyone else to answer those questions. And wouldn't that feel so nice? There are no one size fits all treatments. And I can tell you that. I do work with so many people, and though the work that I do is so similar amongst them, it is different with every single one of them. And I think that that's the best part. Because in my experience, there's just literally no such thing as one way for everyone. And the more that we understand that and we accept the ways in which we're different and what we truly need, so much peace comes from that, so much more ease. We stop fighting with ourselves. We stop battling ourselves to be something different than we are. So, Ayurveda, it emphasizes our daily routines, our seasonal routines. And you heard me actually talking a little bit about the ways in which the seasons are different for me in the beginning of this episode. I wonder what your thoughts were on the seasons for you. And when we start to understand our daily routines and our seasonal routines and the influences therein, we can actually start to sync up our bodies with some natural rhythms that are in nature. And I know that might sound a little flowery, but it is actually insanely powerful once we connect to it and we realize it. And I am so excited to tell you about one of these practices today because I wasn't feeling it, wasn't aware of it. And when I started paying attention, it totally changed my life. Honestly, the way I sleep, how I respond to feeling tired. And I'm going to share that one with you today because I hope that it impacts you in the same way. Also, great little handout I made for you guys, and it only took 200 hours. So I hope you enjoy it. All right. So within Ayurveda, there are so many points of access to begin to practice, to learn, and to understand yourself differently. And a big part of this is going to be to find what calls you and to begin to make the shifts toward alignment that work for you. This could be from when we wake and go to bed to beautiful rituals and practices that we can do every day before we take a shower or before bed or when we wake up in the morning. And these are a few of my favorites. All right, so let's get down to it. What I'm trying to offer you are practices that don't require you to know a lot about Ayurveda so that you don't have to know what your Prakriti are or your Vikriti, and you can still get in there and try these things out. So that means that what I'm offering you are the things that apply and can be useful to all of us.
All right. So this first practice is something that is really simple. It is drinking a glass of warm water with lemon in the morning. I know not all of you drink your water warm, but I hope that you understand by the end of this why to do it and that it's worth it. In Ayurveda, how you start your day is super important. And the idea is to wake up your digestive system. So for those of you who might have scoffed at warm water, this is the reason. Warm water with lemon helps to flush out toxins, to rehydrate our body after sleep. The warm water stimulates our digestion. And that helps balance our Agni, which is the word for our digestive fire. So this is a little ritual that brings in some simple cleansing to help our body do what it naturally does, but a little more efficiently. From an Ayurvedic understanding, warm water is always nourishing and hydrating for our body. And the same is said for foods. Warm, cooked foods are considered most easily digestible. Adding lemon to the water in the morning is a particularly powerful tool. So that starts to kickstart the peristalsis action in our bowel, and that awakens the functions of the entire visceral body. It strengthens our digestive fire, which becomes slow overnight, and that allows us to metabolize food with a stronger capacity throughout our day. So I did dig a little bit into the why behind the lemon, and here's what I found. Lemon can help balance vata, and the citric acids in lemon help us find more calm. It can help lower blood pressure if we use this as a regular practice. It can also even out blood sugar and even protect against kidney stones. Lemons that bring us that vitamin C really can be beneficial because most of us don't get enough. And while so many of us might be deficient in vitamin C has these amazing benefits, with research showing us that what we get from lemons can support healthy aging and longevity, from cognitive function to a more diverse microbiome. So you can think of this as a mini detox every morning. I don't believe that we all need to do detoxes. Our bodies detox themselves. But for those of us who like the idea of it, just consider that as you drink this, you are helping your body become more efficient in those detoxification processes. So it's like giving your body a clean slate to work with for the rest of the day. All you need is warm, not hot water, a squeeze of fresh lemon, and one of the most beneficial things we can all try is to do this before we have our coffee or our breakfast. It's best on an empty stomach so that your body can absorb its benefits most effectively.
All right, we're moving on to practice 2. Practice 2 is to begin to observe and practice aligning with the Ayurvedic clock, which is not something I expect you to know anything about. So come here with no information, no understanding, and my hope is that I give you enough that you can actually take this and run with it. The way in which we're going to do that is by going into the show notes and downloading the Ayurvedic clock resource that I made for you all. This is something I wanted to share with you, so I made one that you are free to download for free, and it will guide you through this. But don't worry, those of you who are driving and who can't download right now, I'm going to explain this concept, and what you're going to walk away understanding, I hope, is that the Ayurvedic clock is more like an umbrella for many options, many practices, and different ways of beginning to make these shifts. The Ayurvedic clock isn't a practice per se, so I'm using a little poetic justice here. Practice 2 is something that I want you to consider a practice in observing. You will understand how to apply this observation process when you have a little more information. So let's dive into it. The Ayurvedic clock, just like everything else we're talking about here today, is a part of the ancient system of medicine, of Ayurveda. And it's about the daily routines and the body's natural rhythms and how those are influenced by those bioenergetic forces that we've touched on already, the doshas. And it shows us how each dosha, the vata, pitta, and kapha, impact our energy levels, our digestion, our mental focus, and our sleep. The clock divides our day into 6 time periods that correspond with the doshas. And looking at the information that is provided here can really help us lean into nature's rhythms, and what we know about the doshas can really help us boost our physical, mental, and even spiritual health if that's something that you're looking for. So Ayurveda divides the day, as I said, into 6 parts. They align with the doshas, which tells us about the kinds of energy and the qualities of those different parts of the day. So for example, in the morning hours of 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., it is kapha time. And remember, kapha energy is calm, it's steady. And here, the kind of activity that is recommended by Ayurveda is going to be light exercise or meditation. It's the best time to have a meal that's nutritious while your metabolism is still waking up, because what we come into next at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is pitta time. Pitta is all about heat and transformation, and it is great for digestion. This is not to say that we shouldn't eat until we get into this period of time where we should only eat when we're at this prime for digestion, but this would be to suggest that maybe our largest meal is during this time. And that's why Ayurveda suggests making lunch your biggest meal. And they suggest eating here because what you will get as a result is more energy, better digestion, and it can help us avoid the afternoon slump, which might come if we don't eat enough, right? The afternoon hours of 2 to 6 then are vata. And vata energy is light and creative. So here people might feel more drawn to the things that allow us to be more open-minded and creative. And this also might be a time that we benefit from taking a break to have some movement, maybe an afternoon walk. So now 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., we're back into kapha energy. This is where winding down comes in. So let's all think about, like, right now, from 6 to 10, what does life look like? A lot of us have the best of intentions of doing that wind down during the 6 to 10 hours. I think that's pretty common. I have some friends who are night owls. Do not feel judged here. I spent years worrying about one of my friends because of her sleep schedule. You know who you are, and I love you. And I'm not worried. Some of us are different. Those with ADHD might have a night owl aspect to them that is not just in choice. So I don't want anyone judging themselves for this, and I will not judge you either. But what I'm asking you to do is look at this. During these hours, do you begin to feel tired? For me, I actually was feeling, when I started to observe this, really tired at the time my kids were going to bed. But as I told you earlier, I did the revenge bedtime thing for a long time. So it was just in my belief system that that was not my bedtime and that I had things to do and that staying up later was more beneficial. Now, I still could have gone to bed before 10 p.m. and benefited from this, worked in line with this. But what happened for me is that I would get tired during that 6 to 10 hour, around 8 or 9. And then I would do things that would actually take me out of where my body was naturally taking me, which was towards sleep. And I'd go into more stimulation. So during these hours, we're winding down, and our body is actually likely to naturally be calming itself down or working toward that. So when we're paying attention, I'm just saying, notice how you feel, and then notice what you're doing, because we might be opting for things that are stimulating. We all know, and this is not a place for judgment, because a lot of these things are so ingrained and automated that we're not really even mindfully choosing them, but we might reach for our phones. We might be getting on TV or having TV on when we're trying to go to sleep. There are just certain things that do stimulate our mind and body, and we might even associate them with our wind down and our rest. So paying attention. Are we pushing past lethargy and those signs from our body that we're ready for sleep and going to bed, or are we not going to bed? We're just noticing. So what we're doing here, if we choose lower and slower, is we're prepping our body for deep and restful sleep. And if we get to bed in these hours, we benefit from what happens next. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is pitta time. Now, if you've been listening and these things are starting to click, you're like, pitta in the middle of the night? But pitta is like our fiery go energy. It's our get stuff done energy. It's fire and digestion. Well, if we're sleeping, then pitta's energy goes toward continuing to digest and metabolize everything from our day. It's like a nighttime cleansing that happens. It's doing all of this work that can only occur if we are asleep. And so if we're awake, what does it look like? We have a term for it. It's our second wind. You might feel yourself feeling awake and stimulated, energized, much like the pitta time during the day. So noticing this was something that was really helpful for me, because if I didn't fall asleep before 10, the likelihood of me having the likelihood of me having restless sleep, difficulty falling asleep, feeling wide awake at night significantly increases. This will still happen if I push my limits. This actually happened one day this week. I read to my son too late, and I knew it. I knew if I went in and I read to him that I was going to be awake, and I wanted to read to him. And so I went in and I was up until midnight. So, it's okay. Sometimes we choose these things and we weigh them out, because doing that for him that night felt like the right thing to do. And the next night, you better bet I was in bed. So now what happens next? Again, we go into vata. So those early morning hours of 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Again, you might not relate to that as early morning because you're still asleep, and that's okay. But the early morning, according to Ayurveda, hours are 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. This vata energy brings mental clarity, lightness, and if you think about what happens if you are awake before 6 a.m., for those of you who have done this even just a few times in your life, you might notice that when you're awake, when a lot of the world isn't awake, it feels different outside, on the roads, in your house. Notice the difference of waking up when things are quieter in your household versus when everyone's awake, or waking up during these hours before you have to be awake and you're set into motion immediately. So what Ayurveda is trying to suggest is that, starting the day slowly helps us approach our day differently. So we are not expected, I am not expecting you, please do not expect yourself to change when you go to sleep, when you wake up, what you do when you first wake up, what you do next when you wake up in a week or even a month. The idea is that we are just paying attention and trying things out and seeing where we have either the greatest motivation or the easiest access to changes like these, which ones our body's like craving, which ones we are craving, and you begin there. Following a rhythm like this doesn't mean that we have to make drastic life changes. It just means starting to align a few activities within these cycles that might be more aligned. It might just be getting out and taking that walk in the afternoon, or making sure you pack yourself a good lunch, or that you just have food in your house so you can eat lunch if you work from home, so that you're getting that good meal in. And again, we're not skipping the other meals as a result of this, but the point is to take advantage of the benefits that each of these different energies offer us. We will have more ease in doing certain things at certain times of day. And that's what I want you to think about. That this isn't meant to create more work for you. This is meant to help you find where there is more ease available to you so that it can feel easier and not feel like something new, something else, and something you have to change because you're doing it imperfectly. That is not what this is for. That is not what this is about. For me, it was just really validating to go, I am tired. Oh my gosh. And maybe I should be tired. And maybe I need to start prioritizing that because I want to. Now, if I didn't want to, like my dear friend who doesn't want to, then don't. Don't do it. I had that within me though. Like I wanted to make the change that I made. So what I want you to do with this Ayurvedic clock is just pay attention. Once you've looked at it and once you start paying attention to what it's suggesting and what it's offering, I want you to notice how you're feeling, what you're doing and the way that you're moving through the day, through the hours of that clock, and what Ayurveda and its clock is suggesting might better serve. And from there, you get to make your choice, right? Do I want to try to change this? Do I want to try and do something differently at these hours of the day? And now for the third practice. The third practice is truly just one thing. I'm not being sneaky again. This is a great one for beginning, I hope, because I think that it gives us a benefit. It doesn't take too much effort, and it's easy access. It is Abhyanga, and that is a warm oil self-massage. I can simplify that. It is a oil on your body process. If that sounds extravagant or like it is time consuming or lavish and you are having reactions to that, then just think about it. Like, have you ever put lotion on? Okay, then you can do this. Could you step it up a notch? Yeah, sure. Could you give yourself a little more time for that process? It might get harder for some of us when we talk about time. But in Ayurveda and in research, the benefits of this are great. What we're talking about is a practice that isn't just about self-care and our skin. It's about our nervous system. So daily ritual in Ayurveda is huge. In Ayurveda, Abhyanga is just like brushing your teeth or washing your face. There are some things that we do daily and we build them up and we don't question them and we make time for them. For me, it's like making the espresso. I'm not going to question it and I do make time for it. But when we talk about adding something new in, it might take a minute and that's okay. So Abhyanga is not just about our skin. It is about nourishing, but on an even deeper level than what you might be thinking. Abhyanga is for grounding our body. It is for our nervous system. It is so beneficial when it comes to stress and anxiety. And how many times do you, because I run into this obviously in the work that I do, but how many times do you wish that you had something for stress and anxiety? These are things we all experience. Whether or not anxiety is diagnosable does not matter. We are human beings. We have anxious experiences. We have times in our life where stress is higher, and it's not always within our power and control to bring that down. But what we do have the power and control over are the things that we do to meet ourselves when we are in it. And this is one of them. And here is how you do it. You take a small amount of oil and you begin to work from your head down, circular motions at the joints, long linear motions on the limbs. And I might not always take time to actually warm the oil. I won't use it cold. I'm not refrigerating it. But If I don't have the time for that and I'm hiding away, carving out time to do this, I might just warm it between my palms. I can do that. And I want you to have the experience of the warm oil. So definitely make time for it because it's like real good, like chef's kiss. Definitely worth it. But again, making time to try these things in the ways that you can, and then carving out more time and building it in. So you might try this a few days a week. And then you might find yourself craving this more and making more time for it and making it a daily practice. If you're wondering what kind of oil, traditionally sesame oil, not the toasted kind that you cook with. So it's not in the grocery aisle. I will link that. But you can also use coconut oil. And coconut oil is something you can buy just about anywhere you shop. And it's great, especially if you run hot. So if you can leave the oil on for 10 minutes or so, maybe more benefit. Right? It's going to soak in more, and you're also inherently giving yourself more time, more downtime, more nothing time, more less time, right? It's a bonus for your brain and your body if you can do that. And if you start by just doing one part of it and then stretching it and building it, again, that is what perfect is. It doesn't have to look perfect if waiting for it to look perfect means that you're waiting and never trying it. Better to try it and tweak it and build on it than to not do it at all, right? So I know, again, that oil massage can sound indulgent, or you might think I ain't got time for that. But what if you did? We make time for all kinds of things without meaning to. Think about it. Think about it. Don't judge it, but think about it. What is something that you spend time on every week that you don't really want to spend time on? I have plenty. Okay, so what would be on my list right now? Right now, I've got a daily battle. Okay, I spend time every day checking in with my son to see if he was supposed to give me his notebook from his teacher to sign for his homework. 20 out of 20 times, yes, he was supposed to give it to me. Did he set the reminder in his phone? I told him to set no. Is he going to be late to catch the bus? Yes. And then we are running and we are finding the book and I'm signing the book, even when I say I'm not going to do it unless he gives it to me without me asking. So there's one thing. What else? I spend a lot of time putting away other people's shoes. And I spend a lot of time making extra trips to the grocery store because I didn't plan meals or I didn't make a list, you know? I spend extra time doing a lot of things. And if I add that time up every week, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to judge it. But if I did add it up, I'd like to have a lot of time for oil massages, guys. And I wonder if you would too. You know what I mean? We make time for things. We often feel like we don't have time. It's just the way of being a human, isn't it? So I want you to think about this. I want you to just try it. And I know some of you are like, oh, I'm not resistant. Why does Ashley think I'm going to be resistant to this? Here's why. I talk to people 6 days a week, maybe. And when we talk about the things that we can do to actually cope and to like feel a little bit better, I can tell you that at least once every one of those days of the week, I'm having that conversation with someone. I'm running into all the barriers for why they don't think they can do it. And I'm like them. I get it. It is so hard for us to think about taking time to do things, making time to do things, and trying new things. It's also really hard for us as human beings, I have found, to believe that something this simple could be really effective. Sit with this for a minute. When you have a lot of stress in your life, do you think that simple things are going to be the answer? Or do you think that your profound problems need profound solutions? I know people who would pay a lot of money to have someone help them solve a problem than spend $8 on a bottle of oil and try this. I know that is a common thing. Like, we often think that something this small isn't going to do the trick. So I say all this and I offer this, and I challenge you to try it. For us as women, whether you identify as a female or not, for us as humans living in bodies, we also have a lot of challenges with being in our bodies, connecting with our bodies, and taking care of our bodies when we have hard relationships with our bodies. So this is a way that I hope that people can begin to segue into a little bit of connection. that this practice in particular brings some good to a hard relationship in so many of our lives, that relationship with our bodies. So I hope that when you do this, you're actually just like, hallelujah, I needed that. And that reinforces you doing it again and again. Because this practice, again, it goes beyond moisturizing. It is about balancing the nervous system, promoting circulation. It helps us detoxify through the lymphatic system. It is a great place to start to incorporate a ritual because just like children, adults, human beings really can thrive with that kind of consistency between our days. It's very grounding for our minds and bodies to have routine and ritual. And when you put a ritual like this in your morning, when you have time and stillness before madness, before chaos, or before just going into maybe a lot of hyper focus and deep work, doing whatever you're doing during the day, it can really make a difference. And I will tell you, I will be honest that I have done this a lot at night. So even though this is a morning practice, and it is very priceless what it does in the morning to set the tone for your day, I started practicing this at night because that was the easiest place for me to begin. I love a bath. And if I'm in there and I've got the door shut and I've already claimed that time for myself, it was just easier to tag something on. So starting there was great for me. I offer that to you as a starting point as well if evening is easier for you than morning, and then maybe it will motivate you bringing it into the daytime. And friends, that's it. These are my 3 suggestions on places to start. Because while there is so much that I could share about Ayurveda and that Ayurveda has to offer us, I wanted to make sure I gave you things that you could put little effort into and hopefully get back a lot. And if your curiosity is piqued and you want to learn more, there is a whole world of knowledge out there. And do you know what's better than learning about Ayurveda from me? Learning from a doctor of Ayurveda. And that is why Gretchen is going to be with us this Thursday on In Our Skin. Remember that the beauty of Ayurveda is that it is all about listening to your body and finding out what works for you. I hope that you are curious and that you're going to be back here on Thursday to dive deeper into Ayurveda with Gretchen and I. And if you want to do that in real life with us, know that you can join us for our Yoga of Life training this winter. If you want to learn more about yoga, Ayurveda, and more practices for life and living that you can build for yourself and share with others, then come along. You can sign up now. We begin this February. Now remember, take the dosha quiz. They're so fun. You'll learn a little more about yourself and your unique constitution and enjoy the Ayurvedic clock as a resource. Links are all in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in to In Our Skin. I'm so excited for season 2. This has been fun so far. I hope you all love having 2 episodes a week, and I really do want to hear from you all. So please feel free to reach out on Instagram or by email. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to In Our Skin. If you enjoyed today's episode, it'd be amazing if you would subscribe, leave a review, share it with a friend who might be interested. It helps a lot, and it's like paying it forward. I really appreciate you all for being here, and I look forward to sharing more with you on Thursday. Have a great day.